So magandang umaga po mga kaibigan. Welcome to another edition of our Tapatan sa Aristocrat. Today, we'll talk about sensitive matters. It's something to do with ISIS, terrorism, and drugs. Because it's been said that drugs may, in a way, affect the country's fiber. It may affect security. So this morning, magandang umaga po at narito yung mga bisita natin who are all knowledgeable in our topic today. To my left is General Bugi Mendoza. Siya po yung isa sa mga haligi ng Counter-Terrorism sa Pilipinas. We have with us soon-to-be Chief Superintendent Joel Coronel of the Manila Police District. He's representing Chief Superintendent Oscar Albayalde of the NCRPO. We're joined by Congressman Gary Alejano of Magdalo Partylist. We have Dr. Stephen Cutler, a friend who made a lot of studies about security. And of course, we have with us Mr. Eugene Gonzalez. He's a member of the Anti-Terrorism Council. You're the program manager. Sky, magandang umaga.
Good morning, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Ngayong umaga very extreme ang topic natin because we have here knowledgeable people right now. So, good morning. It's National Heroes Day celebration today. So, magandang umaga po sa inyong lahat. Simulan na natin ang ating tapatan.
All right. They say that one's terrorist may be somebody else's freedom fighter. How do you look at the Philippines today? Do we have traces of ISIS creeping? Because according to an American security expert last week at a teleconference, he said that ISIS is slowly moving into the Philippines and into Southeast Asian countries. He mentioned a number of incidents in Jakarta and in some other places. Congressman, from your end, from the Magdalo party list, how do you look at it?
Good morning to everyone. Magandang umaga rin po sa aking mga kasamahan ngayon. Ang tanong is, do we have ISIS right now in the Philippines? Well, it's not. It cannot be answered by yes or no. I can say that right now we have terrorist organizations like Abu Sayyaf and other lawless elements in the Philippines, and they're conducting atrocities, no, and other criminal acts, and they want this recognized by ISIS in the Middle East in order to get support from them. But I'm not ready to accept that there are already ISIS members coming into the Philippines to train them. So I guess we have already lawless elements in the country.
Yes, but there have been reports. In fact, in 1995, there was this plot that was uncovered. It was Oplan Bujinka, where then Holy Father John Paul II was put in danger. No? How do you look at such activities?
Considering the fact that it doesn't need one person to move from one country to another. They just have to communicate with each other. They align with themselves with the same ideology. And considering the fact that we have so many Filipinos working in the Middle East, and once they go back to the Philippines, they're bringing in some of these ideas, and they embrace it, and they're conducting activities in the Philippines in line with that ideology. Well, it's a threat, it's a danger to our country, and it's important for us to be aware of such developments so that we could come up with proper deterrence to this.
Okay. General Mendoza, I first met you at a FOCAP briefing. How do you look at the situation today, especially with social media, where phones could be used to detonate bombs and where terrorists could communicate? How do you look at the situation today?
Morning, everybody. Well, the social media platform is the favorite instrument for propagating militant ideas. This was exemplified by the ISIS in the initial stage of their global recruitment, as we have observed. Here in the Philippines, it is not it is not that sophisticated yet. However, 2 to 3 years ago, there was really serious attempt on the part of small groups in southern Mindanao to use the social media platform, attempted to create a Facebook account, Twitter account, and those were the period when they propagated their ideas, and we traced the origin of this Twitter account to some elements of the BIFF from the Abu Sayyaf, most especially the group of Isnilon Hapilon during that period. And they are still doing it now. But when there is a sophisticated system of doing it, we have not yet detected. We did not came across on this kind of sophistication.
So, sir, this Twitter and Facebook accounts in social media, were they used to recruit other members for the terrorist group, or just to give the people an idea of what they're doing?
Yung idea what they are doing, we have not really detected. Personally, I have not noticed any serious recruitment system in the online thing.
In 1995, then Interior and Local Government Secretary Rafael Alunan mentioned that there were 15 Filipinos who were invited to Pakistan, and their training was on ordnance and explosives. But during the last phase of the training, they were made to draw lots for the one who would be the suicide bomber. And allegedly, the 15 Filipinos refused to take part in the practicum, so they were all sent home. Do you think we now have the kind of Filipinos who may be as determined as the foreign counterparts? Dr. Cutler.
From what I've seen so far, the culture that leads to suicide bombing is not present in the Philippines. That doesn't mean that we can make the leap to say, oh, they're not brave enough to do suicide bombings. It's just that the culture doesn't lead itself or lend itself to suicide bombing. I think it's a different culture in the Philippines than it is even in Indonesia. There's a different culture, certainly, than what we find in the Middle East. This book by Robert Pape called Dying to Win, The Strategic Logic of Suicide Terrorism, is one of the things on which I base that, plus my knowledge of the cultures and the way people see things. The Islam of the Philippines fits into the larger religion, but it's also culturally adapted. You don't see that willingness to give up the family. You don't see the willingness to give up one's own life. That doesn't mean that you're not brave, because I think the Abu Sayyaf and MILF and others have shown the bravery over the history of the Philippines, whether the Spanish days, the American days, whatever, and now, today, their willingness to fight, but not just to be the suicide bomber. I don't see that happening in the Philippines. I think there will probably be maybe accidental self-inflicted deaths. I think there may be there may be explosions that will appear to be suicides, but they may actually be triggered by somebody else. So it actually is an additional murder and not a suicide.
Yeah. Having come from the agency which takes charge of studying terrorism, how do you look at terrorism in the Philippines? How do you look at terrorism in the Philippines? We still have the Abu Sayyaf engaged in kidnap for ransom, but that's for money. Of course, they say kidnapping in the Philippines is now a cottage industry.
Terrorism basically, from some studies, they say that there are three ingredients for terrorism. You have a disaffected individual, you have an enabling group, and a legitimizing ideology. So basically, that's what they say that.
It's based on three assumptions.
three assumptions. You have
For the record, sir, can we have it?
you have a disaffected individual,
Disaffected.
you have an enabling group, and then a legitimizing ideology. I think these groups, for like the Abu Sayyaf, like the Abu Sayyaf, for example, I think they actually kind of lost their ideology. So sometimes you play around with terrorism, but it can be argued that they are no longer terrorists. They're way past that. They no longer have the ideology. All they do is actually kidnap people for money, exactly.
Okay.
But what we're studying in terrorism is that what we call the nexus between organized crime and terrorism, wherein terrorist groups actually make use of organized crime to actually fund their terrorist activities. So we kind of see through that there are some terrorist groups that actually use organized crime, even use drugs, actually to finance their activities. That's why some groups actually go to kidnapping, supposed to be, to actually support their activities. But apparently in these groups, they don't do that.
They don't do that. But
They do kidnapping,
they do kidnapping.
but they don't actually use it to support any ideology.
Yeah.
They
But
use it for their own business.
for their own interests. But the president had a slip of the tongue last week when he said that the Abu Sayyaf has already paid 50 million and Malacanang later on retracted. So there's no reason for the Abu Sayyaf not to release the Norwegian national. So how do you look at such? Was it really a slip of the tongue?
The government, as it is, I think, the government basically,
Closer, please.
the government actually basically do not condone giving up ransom. We have a no ransom policy in government, and that I don't think the president, as he said it, did say where the ransom came from. It can come from anywhere, from the families. The government can stop the families from giving ransom, but as far as the government is concerned, the government doesn't give ransom in exchange.
Yeah, of course, because he was even quoted as saying it may have come from his personal account. Which leads me to the question for Mr. Cutler. Dr. Cutler, you're with OmniPay. Don't you think the government can monitor the transfer of funds?
Frankly, I don't know if they can or not, or if they're willing to. There are some technical issues. I would like to think that they could. Some governments can. I'm not sure that the Philippine government has that capability right now. And I say that not as a criticism of the Philippine government, but I think it is something that they have been very concerned with over time, of running afoul of RA 4200, the anti-wiretapping law. I think they've been very careful with the bank secrecy law. The Anti-Money Laundering Council and BSP, in my view, has been very, very careful about watching out for people's rights and privacy and so on. And I'm just not sure that they have allowed themselves to get into the ability to track that kind of funding.
Okay. Now, Senior Superintendent Joel Coronel, coming from the Manila Police District, we've had a lot of messages coming from friends which say that there will be suicide bombers in malls. In as much as you represent the NCRPO, How do you look at such messages through text and Facebook?
First of all, I would like to assure the public that there is no solid or concrete evidence to indicate that there will be terrorist threats or acts here in Metro Manila. This is based on facts and evidence we have gathered through intelligence reports and reports coming from our field units showing that there's no indication that such acts will be carried out. Of course, the threat remains, but there's no real or actual threat at the moment. But the PNP here in Metro Manila is being vigilant. We are coordinating with the different security officers of, number one, government agencies, critical infrastructures, areas of public convergence to ensure the safety of the public. Okay, recently I understand for the past 2 weeks, for the past week, there are SMS messages circulating showing that there are threats of possible bombings in areas of public convergence. I understand this came after reports coming from Mindanao that the Armed Forces of the Philippines has waged a successful campaign against Abu Sayyaf bandits, wherein a total of, I understand, 21 Abu Sayyaf bandits had been killed or neutralized by the AFP. And as a precaution, the Armed Forces has alerted its units and also the police to be vigilant to watch out for possible retaliatory attacks here in Metro Manila. So far, we don't have any solid or concrete evidence that such events will happen.
Now, what do security guards know? You know, they're armed with chopsticks or drumsticks. When you
They're checking
get
bags, but they're
into
not really checking it.
malls, they take a look. Do they really know what they're looking for?
Yes, in fairness to our PNP security supervisory our investigation and security guards, they're conducting regular training to educate and inform our security guards, particularly those in malls and areas of public convergence, to be vigilant. Trainings on how to detect possible improvised explosive devices have been disseminated. In fact, pamphlets and flyers have been distributed to different mall operators and other establishments to be vigilant. In fact, there are instances wherein they were able to detect, well, not explosives, but firearms and other weapons that may be considered, or other instruments or bladed weapons that could be considered deadly. So this had been turned over to the police. Suspects had been arrested, and we're filing cases against these people.
Really? It's very good because I tried asking several security guards, at least one of the 11 general orders for Sentinel, and they couldn't recall. You know, so if that's the case, then we have some problems. But anyway, General Mendoza, what about these text messages? How do you look at it? Because some people interpret it as something to deflect the issues from the killings that have been going on. So you create another issue and people would focus attention and forget about the killings. How do you look at it? Is it also possible?
When you are engaged in this kind of business, information business, and there are text messages going on, circulating, our tendency is to disregard it because it is irregularly done. However, if we will remain speculative, I think there is also a need, there is also an initiative to check that. Because it might be a decoy, it might be an instrument for disruption, but the real intent is a different system. May I repress the suicide bombing issue? When you focus on a suicide bomber, there were several attempts in the past. I'm privy to that, personally privy to that. Because,
Closer, please, closer.
when we raided the safe house of the Raja Sulaiman movement in early 2000, we seized several literatures pertaining to suicide bombing. When we interrogated one of them who cooperated, they are studying lectures. They have actually accomplished the indoctrination period about why there is a need to conduct suicide bombing. It is on record. Another instance when a suicide bombing attempt was initiated by the Abu Sayyaf then was the Super Perry bombing incident. I was part of the investigation there. Covertly I interviewed the suspect because that suspect was previously arrested by the Pangasinan Police Office, wherein I was the provincial director. You know that guy who is also Islamic revert, Balik Islam, was tasked to carry out suicide bombing. He is supposed to remain in the Perry, the engine room, with that powerful volume bomb, but he changed his mind. He left. That was recorded. So there was really attempt of suicide bombing. One incident was earlier. I forgot the year. It was in Awang Airport when a Middle East national, I don't know if he is a Saudi, detonated a bomb in front of the gate of the camp. So that was another demonstration of a suicide bombing incident. Here in our country, another thing was in the Zamboanga Airport, but it was not detonated by the person. It was detonated by another person because the backpack, he is wearing a backpack bomb. Gentlemen and ladies, when we say suicide bombing, it is always anticipated that bomb would be placed in the bomb base and other carrier system. But you know, if you will recall, during the 1900, when our friends, the Americans, were present in the Sulu Archipelago, they were subjected on suicide attack. It is not a suicide bombing. It was a suicide attack by the use of Chris. That's why the caliber 45 was invented by the U.S. authorities before. So that was another demonstration of suicide attack. Now, that's their problem. My friend here, Milo, is they are always reluctant. But I believe, based on what I have seen, I have interrogated, there is really a serious intent for the Islamic militant to execute suicide attack, not necessarily suicide bombing. Because when you are engaged in mass shooting, that is a suicide attack, you expect that you will be killed. When you spray the AK-47 to a multitude of persons, you expect that the police authorities
Will kill you.
will kill you. They will relentlessly kill you. So that's an expression of suicide attack. So my thoughts here is we have to conduct more covert investigation on this aspect, because several years ago, during interaction with some foreign counterparts from Malaysia and Indonesia, they were not able to expect that Jemaah Islamiyah or other Islamic militant group in Malaysia or in Indonesia will stage a suicide attack or suicide bombing attack. They have not discussed this.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, let me ask the three gentlemen here. How do you look at the southern back door of the Philippines? How potent is this for terrorists and so-called freedom fighters? No? Because it seems that traveling in the southern back door is an ease. It's very easy. Congressman.
We're one of the countries that have one of the longest coastlines. And we know for a fact that we have limited capabilities to intercept any movement in our borders. So down there in the south, it's very potential. It's very real that terrorists will come in. Actually, it happened before. They can come in from Indonesia, from Malaysia, and train with the MILF before in Camp Abu Bakar without the armed forces really intercepting them. So I believe that we should look into modernizing our armed forces, our Coast Guard, our Navy, First, on the awareness side, we should have this radar system so that we will know what's happening around us. And secondly, upon knowing of any suspected movement in our borders, then we should have the capabilities to intercept them. So right now, wala ho tayong capabilities yan. Kaya nga in Basilan, in Sulu, we could not just round up the members of Abu Sayyaf because they can just go away and seek shelter in other provinces while the military are operating in Basilan or in Sulu. So after na magkaroon ng operation, they will just go back and continue with their illegal activities and their kidnapping.
Yes. Dr. Cutler, how do you look at the southern backdoor of the Philippines?
Well, I'm really worried about the southern backdoor from a both incoming and outgoing perspective. I think there's some very good work going on with what's called Coast Watch. The Coast Watch system along the southern border, as well as that facing the West Philippine Sea, has some very interesting developments, but there's a lot of things to go forward. That involves, as the congressman was pointed out, the development of radar surveillance in a maritime capacity. I think this fits in well also with the narcotics trafficking that we may see, because the smuggling of any kind of goods is with the small boat traffic coming in and out of seaports and just the coastline, not even regular seaports, but the coastline throughout West and Southern Philippines. When you look at what's often referred to as Bimpiaga, the Brunei, Indonesia, Malaysia, Philippines economic area, smuggling has been carried out for years and years and years. It's only recently that we've realized that terrorists can move very easily, that criminals can move very easily, and that goods can move very easily, which are the precursor chemicals for whether it's shabu or any other kind of narcotics, and the chemists and so on that can make those things. I think it's a tremendous issue. Immigration problems, customs problems, and military problems, and we need to focus on those areas down there.
Yeah, thank you. Eugene.
I think Dr. Seven is right. The southern backdoor poses certain issues on security, like traffic in person, smuggling, even terrorism. And although there are certain mechanisms, border control mechanisms that are being established, some political issues on the international scale, like one ASEAN, for example, in the future, regionalization of different governments. So, but what happens is that we try to collaborate with governments on how to actually control these problems, not only on ourselves, but we can only do that with the help, for example, with bilaterals with Malaysia, bilaterals with Indonesia, and bilaterals with other countries that are adjoined with the Philippines. So we try to ask their help, and as countries, they tend to help us, and we try to do that. And we try to control secure trade and secure travel for not only for Filipinos, but also for other foreigners.
Okay. Before we open the floor to our colleagues from the media, let me ask the gentleman here, how do you look at the drug problem that we face in the Philippines today? Is it of national security concern? Congressman.
Well, certainly it's a national security concern, internal ones, and it has an implications with external ones because most of the ingredients were coming from the outside. My comment on the present drug campaign of the Duterte administration is that I think we need to have a comprehensive study on the causes, the root causes of drug addiction, and find out appropriate solutions in order to address the problem. Because right now, as I was seeing it, the government has embarked on in a war without that much information and preparation, considering the fact that hundreds of thousands of suspected users and pushers have surrendered to the different local government units, and the government doesn't know what to do with them. No? So kailangan there should be a comprehensive study on this, and we should also learn from the lessons of other countries and their own anti-illegal drugs campaign. We should not reinvent the wheels in fighting drug addiction or drug problem. We can learn from other countries like, Thailand, United States, in Portugal. So we should look at whether drug addiction is a criminal act or a medical condition. Because, yes.
Very well said. Now, Senior Superintendent Coronel, let me ask you, pardon my ignorance, but let's say somebody comes to the police and surrenders. What happens next?
Okay. First, I would like to go back to your first question. Going by the reports of the PIDEA, according to their assessment, 92% of all barangays in Metro Manila is drug affected. So, which affects more or less 13 million people here in Metro Manila. Then, DDB statistics show as far back as 2010, there are about 1.8 million drug addicts here in the Philippines. By this time, according to President Duterte in his announcement recently, that's more or less 3 million or even higher. So that's the magnitude of our drug problem. Precisely why, with the advent of the Duterte administration, they have embarked on an intensified, aggressive drug campaign. Okay, and part of that campaign is, of course, enticing and asking drug dependents to voluntarily surrender to the police. So, to your present question, yes, we have several surrenderers, drug addicts or dependents who come to the police office or through the barangay officials or through the local governments asking for help and support, particularly in areas of rehabilitation. Of course, there is a protocol being observed. We are working closely with the Department of Health, the Social Welfare Department, and the DILG on this matter. So we have to categorize or classify these drug dependents into different classes. Of course, those who seek immediate help, those who have considered as heavily drug dependents or drug users, we bring them immediately to rehabilitation centers. All the others will be given support services by the DSWD and the DOH. This is apart from our ongoing anti-drug campaign strategy.
Okay, so it appears, Senior Superintendent Coronel, that if one is fearful of his life, it's definitely no guarantee that he will stop his addiction unless there is psychosocial intervention.
Yes, that's not necessarily. If there's a person who fears for his life, of course, he can always surrender to the police, and from there, we can also assist him, evaluate his threat assessment, then provide assistance to him in terms of other intervention measures such as rehab and treatment. Of course, if he is included in our watch list or target list for high-level drug traffickers, then he would have to face the consequences. Either he surrenders, face prison time, or be neutralized in the process.
So how does one get neutralized?
Well, of course, we have to effect arrests by search warrants, by buy-bust operations, entrapment operations, and then observing police protocol or operating procedures. Of course, we have to effect his immediate arrest. And in case he will resist the arrest and with the use of deadly force, we have to respond in kind. And in
Okay.
effect, that will neutralize.
All right, General Mendoza, how do you look at it? Is it really a national security issue once you talk of drug addiction in the Philippines? Pakilapit lang po ng mikropono.
Universally, narcotics trade is categorized as national security because it is falling under the transnational organized crime. Whether you are conducting the assessment in other countries, narcotics trading is a part of the national security concern. However, I'm not saying that it is a top national security concern. I do believe that terrorism or the New People's Army are still the potent threat for our national security. Although as of now, we have the peace process, there is no guarantee that, according to our information, there is no guarantee that the New People's Army will just easily abandon their firearms or surrender their firearms. There is an ongoing, silent exchange of ideas within the CPP and NPA now.
So you see a splinter group coming?
Maybe.
Maybe. And that speaks a lot more than a yes or a no.
It depends on how the militarized segment, the CPP NPA will react.
Okay.
And regarding the counter-narcotics system here, operational system in our country, may I be allowed to briefly discuss about 2 minutes? The narco structures is like a pyramidal structure. At the top, which is very thin, small percentage, are the importers, the manufacturers, processors, so these are the chemists. Then down the line, wholesaler, distributor, retailers, and the big portion of the pyramid are the consumers, the users. So what I'm pointing here is, I'm not saying that I do agree on the killing, but I'm not saying also that I don't like the killing. But you can just imagine what will happen if this thick and wide base of the pyramid would be eliminated. Can we eliminate those consumers? Can we eliminate these 1.3 consumers?
1.3 million or 3 million consumers.
So I'm just posing that question because if you will tinker your imagination, as I've said, it is like a pyramidal structure. There must be a dynamic response on supply reduction program or demand reduction program. It has to be balanced because if you believe that you are temporarily disrupting the demand side, the drug war will not be successful because we have not yet touched the base, even the smooth base, thin base of the drug or narcotics transshipment interest. Hindi pa tayo nakarating doon. How about the narco-terrorism side? We have not yet reached that level. We are reaching the consumer level with several distributor level, maybe one upper distributor, the Chinese who was killed. But I cannot recall if we have dismantled a clandestine drug laboratory in recent days or in recent months. I hope that we can reach that level so that we would be successful. How about the overseas pipeline, the inward-looking drug pipeline going to the Philippines? There are a lot of things to be done. How about the transshipment going out of the Philippines? And it might be, the destination might be in Europe or the US or Hawaii or Japan. We don't know yet.
Okay.
It's a very, very serious matter.
All right. Thank you very much. Congressman, before we have Dr. Cutler.
I would like to state categorically that I support the anti-drug campaign. However, we would like to support the administration when it comes to the specifics of this campaign. I would like to touch on the numbers. First, it is said that according to PDEA, they have different numbers, 1.3 million, 1.7 million, and according to the President, we have more than 3 million users or drug addicts right now. Then going by the numbers, we have around 40 to 50 rehabilitation centers in the Philippines, both public and private, that can accommodate only 4 to 5,000. So napakaliit po yan. Assuming with the local government units intervention and the non-government organizations and the church intervention, mababawasan natin yung numbers na yan. So assuming out of 3 million, we were able to, in one way or the other, rehabilitate or assisted with the 1 million. What are we going to do with the 2 million? Are we going to eliminate them? They are actually the legitimate targets of operation of our Philippine National Police. So even if we will, assuming even if we will kill them, we cannot do that. You have to kill at least 1,000 a day in order to eliminate 2 million within 6 years. So we cannot do that. We have to study the problem comprehensively because it has implication on the budget. Ilan bang papatayo natin na rehabilitations all over the country, rehabilitation centers?
Congressman, pardon me, but are you of the opinion that the program is unrealistic today?
Well, yes, I believe. Because in Congress, we have not seen a comprehensive study and program against illegal drugs. Now we have to deal with the surrenderies, we have to deal with rehabilitation, we have to deal with the budget corresponding to the programs. Right now,
There's none.
there's none. So how many rehabilitation centers all over the country that we have to build in order to cater these surrenderies? I believe even if we will allocate the amount, one in each province, even one in each municipality, we cannot rehabilitate the 2 million at one time. That is why we need to have a serious study on the problem.
Well, I really don't know, Congressman, whether the president was joking when he was quoted as saying, the addicts are no longer humans.
Well, kaya actually, it has been repeatedly stated that addicts are no longer humans because the brains of the drug addicts shrunk to a size that is not anymore normal for a human being. But we want to see that study. We want to see a scientific study on that, and that should be part of the study. That's why I'm contemplating to file a resolution or bill to encourage the president to set up a commission that will be composed of doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, law enforcers, in order to really study the root causes of the problem so that we can have appropriate actions on the
Okay.
matter.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to believe that President Duterte is into natural fertilizers anyway. I don't want to believe that. Dr. Cutler, how do you look at it?
Well, I'm not going to second guess what the president meant or what he intended to say in any way. However, one of the things that, when I look around the world and I see the situation in a country like Mexico, which is incredibly, it's just spinning completely out of control. But a country like Colombia has now reached an agreement between the narco traffickers, narco terrorists, and the government to where they're going to be, I think, bringing that country back together. A few years ago, I wouldn't have even dreamed of that happening. I think the Philippines has an opportunity, and discussions like this are incredibly important to bring the ideas out to the people so that they can learn and they can think as well. What you're doing with this discussion today is bringing some very fascinating ideas out for discussion among the people, and I think that's incredibly important. When we look at how to prevent the Philippines from becoming a Mexico, I think one of the things that General Mendoza, Colonel Coronel, and Congressman and my distinguished colleague Eugene Gonzalez has said, it comes back to a whole of government approach. And I think when we look at the Philippines of today, it's a vastly improved country since the last century, the last 20 years, 10 years even. There's been a tremendous amount of improvement. The coordination in national security across the board, whether that is in cyber, whether that is or protecting our computer infrastructure, the work of the DOH, DSWD, the DILG, DND, all working together to improve the security of the country, we're vastly improved. We still have a long way to go, but I think we need to make sure that we are working on a whole of government approach, which the Colonel was talking about a couple of minutes ago. It isn't just about the PNP doing some work. It isn't just about the BDEA. It isn't just about AFP. It's about all of us, DILG and everybody working together to try to improve the security of the country. And I think we're moving in that direction. There will be areas that we will see, oh, maybe that wasn't the best way to go. We need to switch. We've learned. And that's where, when the Congressman was talking about studies, I think we've got some very, very good academics within the country. UP, Ateneo, and Baguio, Zamboanga, all have good schools and can be doing research on this issue.
Yeah, okay. Sky?
Well, I'm just very concerned of the 1.3 million that is being called to surrender. Do you have any data on how many have surrendered already, and or how many of them are minors?
Sorry, I can only speak for the Metropolitan Manila. For the past 60 days, almost 60 days since the third administration came in, for Metro Manila, there are about 45,000 surrenderies so far. Our target is 350. So in the span of 6 months, we're hoping-
45,000.
So far, yes, 45 surrenderies, either pusher, user, or addict, or a drug dependent. Our target by within 6 months should be at 350,000. That's our goal. We're hoping that we'll be able to bring them in, to have them documented, and then introduce the necessary intervention measures that will help them to turn their back against the drug menace.
So are they in jail now, or where are they
No.
located?
Of that portion, of that number, only a handful are in jail, those who have criminal warrants of arrest. Others are brought back and returned to their respective homes, being supervised by the barangays, and of course being constantly monitored by the PNP, by the local stakeholders, and the community.
So how many have been killed by tandem in riding? Riding in tandem.
Again, I can only say, cite the figures for Metro Manila. For the past almost 2 months, those killed or were shot under suspicious circumstances, of course, that's drug-related. That's about, I understand, 1,200 cases, more or less.
For Metro Manila?
Yes.
1,200. Do you have any idea if the government should ban motorcycles so we can put a stop to this?
No, I don't think so. I think the Philippine Motor Association is resisting or going to reject that proposal.
Okay. Because there was a time in Bicol when people riding motorcycles were compelled not to use helmets because the Sparrow units of the NPAs were successful in killing military personnel and assets, and they don't get identified because they
I
have
think there are
helmets.
some provinces that doesn't allow helmets.
Now, we will have to see that. We'll open the floor to our colleagues from the media. So we have a brave soul here named Estong Reyes of Interaction.
Okay. Medyo lang ba to?
Wala muna komentaryo, tanong na.
Huwag mong ibaban yung motorcycle, ha? Magagalit ang anak ko sa'yo. Well,
Si
anyway.
Pat Santos, walang motorsiklo.
Ayun, si Pat, ayun. Oh. Well, anyway, kay Coronel. Sir, so far, sabi nyo kanina, 45,000 in Metro Manila. How about in Manila alone? Ilan na po yung nagsumusuko?
Yes, sir. As of August 25, we have about 256 for Metro Manila alone. Yes, comprising, covering 896 barangays.
800.
Sir, so far, since kayo po yung hepe ng Manila Police District, meron na ba kayong na-identify ng mga pulis na sangkot o what protector, Cutler, na mga drug pusher?
We have a list, yes. In fact, those who have been suspected of being engaged or involved in illegal drug trade,
How many kaya dun, sir?
16 were already relieved outside of Metro Manila since July 1.
Sir, sa Maynila po.
In Manila pala, sorry, in Manila. 16,
16.
Manila police personnel.
Yung isa nakikita ko pa sa kanila eh.
I understand that, just mentioned earlier, that there are policemen who are included in the list who were relieved. They have been ordered to report to Krame for a period of, if I'm not mistaken, 30 days for them to attend their pending cases in court. So the directive for them is to report to court cases, to appear in court hearings, and then return to the assignments where they were designated. So I understand there are about, of all the figure in Metro Manila, there are about 200 policemen relieved. Majority of them were recalled for court duty. This has been done in coordination with the judiciary, wherein marathon hearings will be held for these policemen to attend their court duties in prosecution of drug offenses.
So malinaw isa rin yung 16 na police officers sa Manila alone are on the list. Oh, meron pa yung, ewan ko kung nasa listahan yung kilala ko. Okay.
Ayun. Wag mo
Hindi
naman-
pwede sa public.
Okay.
Well, hindi. Last na lang, sir. Sir, mukhang alam ko yung drive nyo sa drugs is mapakaganda. So, kahit hindi ko binoto si Duterte, nasisiyahan ako. But, yung mga video karera, bakit mukhang nakakaligtaan? Ang dami ho dyan sa Santa Cruz. Sa
Okay. That's another issue. Okay.
ano lang kasi,
Yeah, that's
yun ang pinagpupugaran ng addict for your information. Marami pa ring addict na nandyan. There are so many addicts around. They're playing video carrera
Yeah,
to kill time.
May listahan.
Yeah, no. We have conducted operations against the Video Carrera. I just don't have the figures right now. But for the past 2 months, I understand 18 persons were arrested and more or less 20 machines were confiscated. I don't have the exact details now for the past 2
Sige.
months. So that's ongoing operations.
Sige
Of course,
po.
we don't want to lose sight on the target, on the priority, the drug campaign. Kasi it has been brought up on several instances that drug syndicates would bring up the illegal gambling issue to divert the attention from the anti-drug
okay.
strategy.
Pero-
But they're using members of media, members of the church, members of the community to highlight the illegal gambling issue in order to shift the focus of the PNP from the anti-drug campaign. So probably that's one of the
Okay.
reasons now why gambling is suddenly becoming an issue. Because our focus remains on the anti-drug campaign. Because our resources are limited, our policemen are just only a handful, and if we're going to divert these policemen resources to other issues, such as gambling, illegal gambling, which could be better addressed by the barangay and city government, then we'll be losing half of the battle.
Okay.
So, make clear lang, hindi ako kasama dun sa shift na yun, sa media.
Huwag kang defensive. But anyway, ano ho nangyari doon sa 16? Whatever happened to them? Were they reassigned somewhere else?
Yeah, they have been transferred to, they have a choice, either to ARMM, that is in the Autonomous Region of
Ano kasalanan po ng taga-ARMM to deserve this policeman?
No, it's just part of the strategy. Purposely is, number one, these policemen suspected of being engaged in illegal drug trade. We have to remove them from their environment,
Okay.
from where they can use their official status position in getting involved in the drug trade. So we remove them and bring them to the area where they can be easily monitored and supervised. And ARMM at present is most convenient. Of course, Region 9 in Zamboanga, and the other is in Caraga, that is in Region 13.
Okay. Pero they will not be assigned to the headquarters of the police security group where they will walk on the third floor and suddenly jump? Hindi naman. Okay. Mabuti po yung maliwanag. Please identify yourself.
Roderick Mendoza po from UNTV News and Rescue. Sir, sa kanilang lahat po, ang tanong ko lang ay ongoing yung negotiations natin with NPA po, New People's Army. Pero listed siya as foreign terrorist organizations ng US. So how should we look at it? Paano dapat natin tingnan? Dapat ba ito ay isang internal concern na dapat wag pang himasukan ng US o dapat sundin natin yung posisyon ng US with regards sa NPA?
So who would volunteer to answer that? General Mendoza? You're the expert. Andito po yung mikropono. Lapit lang po ng mikropono. Yan.
We are pursuing peace initiatives with the political arm of the Communist Party of the Philippines, which is the National Democratic Front, in all mechanism for peace talks. Universally, the government talk with the political arm. However, I understand your interest because the political arm is under the Communist Party. The party, there is a United Front, which is the political wing, and the arm wing, which is the New People's Army. You know, we have a very, very unique position in the Philippines. We have a legal Communist Party. We have a legal Communist Party. And we don't have an illegal NPA. You can find in any jurisprudence whether NPA is illegal. No. However, NPA forces became illegal when they are arrested with arm. Because the RA 1700 was already repealed. So we have a very unique situation, and this is the advantage of the Communist Party. They are talking while they are fighting. Now, there is an advancement whereby unilateral ceasefire. The next question is how long this ceasefire will hold. Regarding your question, technically, we don't have to talk with the terrorist organization. We don't have. Not following the categorization of the U.S., but that is a universal doctrine accepted, put into practice by so many countries that you don't talk to terrorists. If that is the hardline position, then we are not supposed to talking with the National Democratic Front, which is under the Communist Party, with an armed wing counterpart. But you know, there are some dynamism in pursuing peace. You have to talk with the political arm so that peace talk is a form of a political battle. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't mean that peace talks will decide the fate of the conflict. Because I do believe, it's my personal opinion, you can read history. There's no successful peace negotiations unless the rebel process is decimated organizationally and politically disrupted, and most importantly, capitulate. The NPA as an armed wing and the CPP as the party itself cannot expect the government to capitulate. The moment that we capitulate and we give in to the whole demand of the CPP by acceding to their demand, the total NDF program is already accepted, is already provided by the government, then we are in trouble. I think our national security sector will be put into a defensive position if that would be the case. But I don't think that it would be done by the government. What the government is doing is we are really maximizing efforts in maintaining the equilibrium of confidence building. Too much confidence because you can just imagine all political prisoners will be released and they would be given amnesty under the congressional approval.
Okay. So what lessons have we learned from the 1986 ceasefire with the NPAs? I remember when a ceasefire was declared in 86, those who were with the armed component could easily be identified because they had brand new Adidas shoes.
You know, if the negotiation now is in the incipient stage and there is a breakthrough in the peace process, then a high percentage of success would be expected. But, you know, internal assessment indicators suggest that they are traversing the journey of people's war between the advanced sub-stages of the early defensive phase. because they are calling for the strategic stalemate to be implemented by December 2015, but they were criticized by the OTREC base. So there was a silent debate on that. So they withdraw their political position that they
Okay.
can reach the strategic stalemate.
So the Ireland experience will never happen in the Philippines.
No, it would be hard because, the NPA, as I've said earlier, will be reluctant to surrender their arms, even there is already a disposition of forces within the track of peace agreement. Because, the military commission handles the supervision over these NPA forces. The military commission, under the military commission, is the National Operational Command. It is structured, very, very serious structure. And, the criticism is those aging like me, no, anyway, they are older than me, political bureaus based in OTREC, they are there. And gentlemen, those people who were released at the time of their arrest are inactive. They were all inactive at the time of their arrest. So they are being criticized by the Philippine-based leaders. Why they were there? And we have been subjected for ridicule for a long, long time. Their policy, if somebody is arrested, automatically or a standard operating procedure that is member
Like
of the
Consultant.
consultant. So if you can arrest the whole political bureau tomorrow, they are all consultants. So it's stupid. Huh? But now they are attempting to reform that.
Okay. Thank you. Congressman, you'd like to add? And Dr. Cutler?
We should remember that the ultimate objective of the CPP, NPA, NDF is to overthrow the government and replace the present system with their system, which is communism. And having peace talk with the Philippines is not their objective. It is just a tactical move on their part. So right now, I don't really see the NPA agree with Chairman Mendoza that they're going to surrender their firearms. If they will agree to operate within the present system, then they're defeated, and they will not do that. So they're just using this in order to achieve some tactical advantage, like release of political prisoners. Marami po yan. Ang demand ho nila abot ng 500 detainees. And well, we should be hopeful about this peace process that finally we will achieve, we will put closure to the issue of insurgency in the country. But we should also remember the lessons of the past. Then when they were released in 1986, 1987, they could just find excuses or demand impossible demands along the way in order to scuttle the talks, and then they will just go back to the mountains. But of course, bigyan ho natin ng chance. Ang worry ko lang ho, the CPP, NPA, and NDF, they are working together in one common objective. They are not separate organizations. In that, the confidence building measure or measures by the present administrations, for me, is too much, because he appointed actually members of CPP in his cabinet. And we cannot just say that they're parts of the academe, they're part of the political party, and they're harmless. They are actually part of the overall system. They're working on a common objective. So, since there is no arrangement yet, I would have preferred that the appointment of the cabinet secretaries will come after the negotiation or the conclusion of the peace agreement. It should have been part of the agreement. But if you appointed them early on without clear arrangement, then they're going to use that power, that resources in order to advance their interest. And for me, that is very dangerous.
Dr. Cutler?
Well, I don't pretend to speak for the United States government. I have no authorization to do that and no inside track on that. I would suggest, though, that the Philippines needs to resolve its own issues itself without worrying about whether or not any organization remains on what the United States calls a foreign terrorist list, or any kind of look at what the United States does. I think the Philippines needs to focus on its own peace and its own order, its own issues within the country, continue to strengthen as it's doing the Philippine government and the whole of government, whole of society, and resolving what I'll call the NPA issue, the MILF issue, the Abu Sayyaf issue, the narcotics issue is all part and parcel of that. But it needs to be done by the Philippines, for the Philippines, irrespective of what the United States does and what the United States thinks.
Okay. Thank you.
Follow-up lang po kay General Mendoza. Yung anong tingin niyo po sa concessions na hihingin dito ng CPP, NPA, NDF? Kasi wala naman silang hawak na territory. Sabi nga ni President Duterte, kahit isang barangay wala silang hawak. So ano yung tingin niyo na pwede nilang hingin sa gobyerno kapalit nung kung sakali man pagbababa ng armas nila?
Well, according to information, and very, very reliable information, they will never surrender their arm. That's the main problem. And if you will dig deeper, it happened in the country of Nepal. The armed rebel forces there did not surrender their firearms. However, the party negotiated for peace and law. Now, what happened to Nepal? That is one of the possible scenarios that will happen here.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. I have a question here. Somebody sent me a question. Do you have any information why some members of the Malate group was released by government? Was it Malate or Mauto? Malate. Oh, okay. They were not released?
Basing on the news recently, I understand 30 members of the Maote gang were forcibly rescued by the Maote group in Lanao, in Marawi City.
They were
So,
forcibly rescued.
by their own groups, yes.
So they were not released.
No,
They were not released, but okay, they were rescued by their fellows. Okay, so that's something. If they can rescue their counterparts, then something. Doesn't speak well. Yes, please.
I'm Paul Jeffrey from Catholic News Service from the United States. Full disclosure, the United States has a significant drug problem, so my questions about what's going on here doesn't come from some perfect place. But Colonel, two questions for you in particular. One is, what progress are you making in investigating and capturing the killers, the people who are riding in tandem and so forth? One could argue that murder is a more significant crime than drug possession or drug use. And so what are you doing, including possibly members of the police force that are involved in that? And secondly, how do you expect police to enforce the law when the chief executive of the country categorizes part of the population as less than human? Do you think that that makes more difficult the task of the police to enforce the law in a fair-handed way? Thanks.
yes, sir. I can only answer those questions in my capacity as the head of the Manila Police District. I cannot speak for the entire PNP, sir. For the city of Manila, there are 36 recorded murder or homicide incidents which are considered drug-related. 36, meaning these persons were either shot or killed, and they had been tagged or identified as drug traffickers or users. Of these 36 incidents, 21 cases had been cleared. We were able to identify possible suspects, and in fact, we're going to file cases against them. What are the motives for these killings based on the 21 out of 36? Number one is non-remittance of drug collection money. So apparently, members of the same drug trafficking syndicates are neutralizing or killing their other core members, group members, for non-remittance. Particularly now, for the past 2 months, drug or illegal drugs are very scarce here in Manila, especially shabu. And most traffickers are holding onto those drugs, or after having sold those drugs, fail to remit these collections because they know there will not be any more sale after that. Another motive that we have identified is that rival drug groups here in Manila are eliminating one another because they want to gain territory that will be lost by some groups which had been displaced by our police operations. So they're especially in the areas mentioned earlier during the breakfast in depressed areas in Tondo. So that's where most of the killings were happening. And of course, the last motive is we're not discounting the fact that there are rogue policemen who are eliminating their former runners, traffickers, and sellers in the guise of an anti-drug campaign. And we have already suspects on that. So be assured that we're going to act on all 36 cases reported here for Manila. And number two, regarding the instructions of the President, of course, our headquarters, the National Police in Camp Crame, has already given its standing instructions to conduct full operations against illegal drugs. So our strategy, as mentioned by General Mendoza earlier, is number one, supply reduction, number two, demand reduction, and number three is drug rehabilitation. For the PNP, and on my part, we're concentrating on supply reduction. So please be assured that here in Manila, we are following or conducting all our operations following our police operating protocols or procedures. Of course, we adhere to the rule that respect for human rights must be observed at all times, especially in dealing with criminals, because under our laws and our constitution, they have rights to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. They have rights to seek counsel. And of course, part of our operating rules is the use of deadly force in instances when such force is justified, in cases wherein they will resist arrest and they will use arms or firearms against the police, or they will endanger the policeman or the community. So far, for the city of Manila, I understand there are no news or complaints regarding the violation of these protocols. So I can only speak for the city of Manila. I don't know about the other areas in the country. Thank you, sir.
How successful are you in your Oplan Tukhang? Please.
Yes, so far, sir, among the cities in Metro Manila, Manila has the most number of voluntary surrenders at 11,256, as I mentioned earlier, followed by Southern Police District. They're about 9,000 plus, then Quezon City at 8,000. Okay, these surrenderers came of their own accord, voluntarily seeking the help of government for them to be rehabilitated and to clear their names in the illegal drug activities. Crime in Manila, or for the whole of Metro Manila, I can speak for, has been reduced. Street crimes, rather. Street crimes were classified as those robbery, snatching, pickpocket, and others were committed in public places had been reduced by a total of 32% for the past 2 months.
However,
murder and homicide has increased, had increased because of the killings I have mentioned earlier. For Manila, we have 36 killings as compared on the monthly average of only 8 or 9. For the past 2 months, we had 36. But then again, we're investigating those incidents. So far, in areas of public convergence, we have very minimal or practically zero incidents of snatching, hold-up, robbery, and theft. Most criminal elements are shifting their methodology or their modus operandi to mostly break-ins, robbery of inhabited places, and theft in malls, wherein police presence are very minimal.
okay. Without sounding discriminatory or racist, why is it that there is always a Muslim component in the drugs syndicate in the Philippines?
Again, I believe faith or religion has nothing to do with this. But again, if you will study the profile or the activities of drug trade in the country, as mentioned earlier, most of the drugs are coming from outside of the country and being brought in by foreign nationals, mainly coming from mainland China. And then they're being distributed to their principal suppliers or wholesalers in the country. Muslim, as a group, or people from Mindanao, are being used as muscle of these drug syndicates, knowing that they are armed, they are cohesive, and that they're willing to do anything. In fact, they are very, they have the courage and fortitude enough to carry out illegal activities even at risk of life. And of course, with them acting as the muscle or arm component of these drug syndicates, there are several reports that they are involved in the drug trade.
Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, please.
Before I allow my colleague Pat Santos to ask question, ito lang, we're monitoring locals about drugs. Are we also monitoring foreign nationals? Not the Chinese, not those are in the watch list, but Europeans, some Americans who
Are
have
you
the
talking?
money.
Are you talking of tourists?
Yes, tourists who are involved in drugs.
Okay.
Does the authorities have a
Yes,
monitoring
please.
system?
As I have said earlier, narco trade trading is a transnational organized crime. It is not only conducted by tourists, but there are certain foreign grouping here who are categorized by the narcotics agencies like PIDEA, AIDG as independent players. There are a couple of, several couple of Indians, uh, maybe Mexicans if it is not totally disrupted, Taiwanese, and of course the Chinese who are really on top of the situation. And there are also Chinese Malaysians because on record there are about two who are arrested, incarcerated now. So the nature of being a transnational organized crime groups is really difficult to track, most especially if coordination is not effected properly. That's why government engaged in counter-narcotics operation must pursue relentlessly the coordination with Interpol, other embassies concerned, and other international anti-narcotics organizations. Because the nexus of drugs with other transnational crime group is already existing. Like there is a combination of narcotics with illegal trafficking of firearms or trafficking of women. So it is very, very challenging. If you see if you see a suspect, do not conclude right away that he is only engaged in narcotics. He might be engaged in other form of crime. He might be engaged in money laundering and other things. That's why it's a very, very challenging anti-transnational crime organization.
Thank you. From the outside looking in, Dr. Cutler, don't you think we should do something about immigration protocols? Because while foreigners are being allowed or required to submit pieces of documents like disembarkation forms and the like, can we not come up with a highly computerized mechanism so we can ferret out potential overstaying aliens in the Philippines who may be involved in nefarious activities?
I think you have a very good point there. I think between the Bureau of Immigration, Bureau of Customs, and so on, there are some national security issues that have not been addressed over a number of years. And technology allows us to strengthen those particular weaknesses. I think to go to your question, I think one of the things that General Mendoza was just saying, we can't assume that because someone looks a certain way or belongs to a certain group or a certain nationality that they are involved in illegal activities, but we also shouldn't assume that they're not. And I think it is valuable for us to look at everybody. Now, that doesn't mean that we're paranoid. It simply means that we are aware of certain potentials and issues. The PNP and other groups within the Philippine national security arena are active in, I think it's pronounced ASEANapol, the cooperative police agreement within ASEAN. They're also very active in Interpol, in exchanging information on a multilateral basis. And then General Mendoza was mentioning the work that the United States Embassy, the Australian Embassy, and British Embassy, French, all have representatives here who are dealing with law enforcement and security issues. And I think the PNP is well respected. The NBI is well respected by those foreign counterparts, and I think they're doing some excellent work. PDEA is well respected as well. But there's a lot of room for improvement and a lot of work ahead of us. And I think that that's one of the important thing about your question is to help raise that awareness among people. As General Mendoza says, one of the things that I think we also need to be very, very concerned about here is the cross criminality. There's a huge issue with sexual exploitation of children within the Philippines, and to me that's destroying the national security for the future as we don't address that issue very well. And many of those exploitation cases are coming out of the same poverty-stricken areas that breed the terrorists and terrorist organizations and the narcotics trafficking.
Thank you very much. Eugene, don't you think drug syndicates can use their clients into becoming an army of sorts against government? And they can come up with suicide bombers if they run short of drugs.
Actually, the suicide bomber
Pakilapit lang po no.
the suicide bomber phenomena actually goes beyond basically drugs. It's a problem of radicalization. They can actually use that, but they can actually use other means, forms of radicalization. They can always, of course, deceive someone from carrying a bomb and then, as Stephen told him, detonate it remotely, having an impression that it's a suicide bomber, but actually not. But the problem is more than drugs. It's actually, for us in terrorism parlance, it's more of radicalization, especially that it's no longer a problem of boundaries, physical boundaries, like the boundaries became virtual. Like as you said, as far as social media and propaganda is concerned, especially with ISIS and other terrorist organizations, they've been sophisticated in actually radicalizing youths, and which goes to my idea of enabling group. Usually, the enabling group becomes sometimes purposely it's more local, but now the enabling group, because of social media, becomes international.
Okay.
The ones who actually push you from bombing, shooting, as General Mendoza is saying, doesn't emanate from your community, but it's actually outside of the country pushing you.
Yeah.
So that's one of the problems of terrorism, the radicalization of individuals, which brings about lone wolf phenomenon as we have right now, as we've seen internationally right now.
Okay, thank you.
Follow up lang po.
Sige, we're running short of time.
I have met personally people who pose as ordinary tourists or businessmen, but are actually also involved in illegal activities like drugs, prostitution, cyber sex. They just pose as ordinary tourists. Is there a way or a capacity for the government to monitor these people? Because one time they were World Cup players for billiards. I met them. I fitted them. And they had cocaine in their bags.
Even a concert group some time ago who was here also had drugs.
Anyway, to monitor, capacity to do something about this?
Any volunteer? Yes, please.
Well, actually, as far as monitoring, I mean, we have, let's just round off the figures to 1 million tourists. It's really difficult to monitor what 1 million people are doing. And when you think about whether it's a rock group that's maybe a half a dozen people plus their support people, that's maybe another 100. That's really difficult to monitor. I think that's where the exchange of information, we'll call it intelligence by customs, by immigration, and so on what these people have done overseas, what their reputations are, should they be even allowed into the country in the first place. That's where the work that is being done with ASEANAPOL and Interpol, Customs has agreements with other customs organizations. That's very important. To strengthen the customs inspections at the ports upon entry. And it's easy to say they ought to be doing something, but when we look at the volume of people coming in, it's really difficult to pick out. I'll use a poor analogy to do this. It's difficult to pick one fish out of a large ocean and to stop that one person from doing something. It's not impossible, but it's very difficult. That's not to say that we shouldn't try. We should. And I think by strengthening customs, strengthening immigration, strengthening the airport police and the security people at the airports and seaports, that will have a good effect on terrorism, a good effect on the sexual exploitation of our children, which, by the way, isn't just physical anymore. That's also over the cyber, over the cables and so on. So there's a lot of things that I think we need to do from a strengthening of the government, a lot of work left ahead of us to accomplish exactly what you're suggesting.
Thank you. Yes, please.
I have two questions. I'm Pat Santos from Daily Tribune, sir, to General and MPD Chief. Sir, matagal na akong reporter sa Maynila. I've been about 10 years.
Panahon pa ni Ricardo Papa.
No, hindi naman.
Hindi naman, okay.
Anyway, it is a common knowledge, yung party ng Quiapo, yung Muslim area, central distribution yun ng shabu all over Metro Manila. At saka yung mga known, I'm not saying Muslim, religion na naman. Pero dun sa area na yon, thickly populated Muslim community, yung Muslim dun center, impenetrable yan sa MPD noon Talagang pinapatay pag hindi nagre-remit or something. Doon po yung pinakamalaking hole ng shabu during previous administration. Sa term nyo ba ngayon, sir, ano ang status ngayon nun? At kung meron man effort para ano na po nagawa natin para ma-reduce or something yung present situation ng overflowing drug supply dun sa area na. Parang yun ang pinaka source.
Yun ang central market.
Yun.
Di ba?
Divisoria.
Divisoria.
Ng
Okay.
Cebu. During those times, hindi ko sinasabing time mo, Coronel. Ay, Sir Coronel. Kalito yung trunk si tsaka Okay, sir.
Yes, sir. We understand. We have received several reports regarding that, particularly in Arlegui and in Barbosa area. I'd just like to report to you that yesterday or early Sunday morning at 2:41 a.m., by-bus operations were conducted by the MPD, resulting to the killing of 5 drug suspects in Arlegui, Quiapo, known as Cambodia Alley. It's reported in the news. I understand it's been carried by the networks and the dailies early this morning. Of the suspects killed, 4 are believed to be of Mindanao descent.
Muslim names.
2 Christians, Muslim names, yes, sir. And recovered from there are about 250 grams of shabu, several firearms, a jungle bolo, 1 grenade. And follow-up operations are being conducted. And again, another report, follow-up. I'm just reading the text of my ground commander.
Yes, sir.
Okay, follow-up conducted. Also along that area in Seafarers Training Center, visit Arlegui, 2 more suspects were neutralized or killed in a shootout by police. So that's 7 in a span of 6 hours in Arlegui, Quiapo area. So we have to sustain that. That's also included in the...
So what, can we say na-neutralize na o na-lessen na?
No, we still have several names being monitored. But at least we are already starting our operations in that particular area, sir. So it's in the news. Naunahan lang namin kayo ng 12 hours sa operations. So 7 po ang napatay natin doon na drug suspects and ongoing yung follow-up operations.
Okay, sir. That's good news.
Pat, pahabol ko lang. Senior Superintendent Coronel. In as much as you get to confiscate the weapons used, I understand there's a unit at the Philippine National Police who can identify the kind of weapons and the ownership and probably the source of these weapons.
So as a matter of procedure, all firearms recovered or confiscated from suspects or criminal elements are to be turned over to our PNP crime laboratory. So they'll be the ones to be conducting necessary forensic and ballistic examinations. And of course, these examinations shall be compared with the records with our Firearms and Explosives Office, also in Camp Crame,
Bert?
to determine ownership or source of that firearm.
So, it's good news. Yung second naman po kay General. General, tungkol po to yung involvement ng China. China government. Dahil mostly, ang source po sa China, tapos mga chemists, Chinese. Tapos may mga certain reports na ini-smuggle sa mga coastal areas natin yan. Ang hinala galing din China. Tapos si President Duterte, meron siyang gagawin na isa yun sa party na papakiusap niya to cooperate. Meron po bang kayong inkling na ang Chinese government is state-sponsored to para sirain tayo? Dahil meron tayong feud sa ganito or pinahihina tayo or something sa intelligence. Meron po bang ganun? Kasi puro Chinese, puro Chinese, puro Chinese.
I will not specifically pinpoint the Chinese to be doing what you are thinking. But there are a lot of literatures in the online or in other reference materials which suggests that there is what we call state-sponsored narcotics trading. State-sponsored. And if you will examine further, there are several states doing this, no? Like North Korea, Iran, or maybe China, a part of the Chinese government. But the Chinese have introduced certain control system on narcotics control system, and they are very, very active in narcotics suppression operations. Nevertheless, there are allegations that in Hong Kong, there are reconfiguration of narcotics structures. Like the triad, it's no longer the old triad that we know, but there are ongoing maneuver in Taiwan also. What I'm saying here is there are certain alliances forged between among or between North Koreans, China, and other countries like Iran or maybe Latin American suspect countries. So, hindi natin pwedeng masabi na China lang, but it appears na for every arrest, nandiyan yung mga Chinese. Maybe it's part of their culture. No? It's my opinion.
Or is it because they have knowledge in chemistry?
Or they are really advanced in the chemistry aspect. But, long time ago, I remember reading several pieces of literatures concerning triad, which is covertly assisted by certain Chinese government functionary. Maybe the PLA. I think so many people here knows about that so-called interaction. Okay, but whether it remains until now, it's beyond my reach. I'm just citing historical overview that there were really indeed some cooperations by the government on drug control, certain organized crime group involved in drugs, the Chinese triad, the Hong Kong triad, and other things.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now, for the director of the Manila Police, you're successful in Tokhang. How successful are you in getting into condominium units? Number one. Number two, bakit daw nakachinelas lang yung napapatay? Wala raw po bang nakasapatos?
Okay. First, sir, I cannot still claim that we're successful in the anti-drug campaign because we're barely scratching the surface. We have a long way to go. We're given 6 months by the president, and our target is still way up. And hopefully, with your support, we're going to meet that target. Condominium units, we're very fortunate that hotel owners or condominium units here in Ermita, Malate, and in Binondo are very cooperative. They're even providing us information on suspicious subjects or particularly new faces, visitors, or guest transients who might be involved in illegal drugs. And we were able to gain access to these condominium units as verified in our operations. And to those suspects wearing sleepers, of course, in Manila, most of our areas of operations are in, of course, Baseco, Parola, Tondo area. Now, Quiapo recently, of course, we all know these are depressed areas. People living in a marginalized area of society, segment of society. But not all of them are wearing sleepers. Some of them are even wearing Louis Vuitton shoes or Gucci in those encounters.
Really, eh?
Yes, sir. I don't know if it's original or fake, but
Ayun ang problema.
they are wearing the same shoes. Yes, sir.
Okay. Yeah. China na naman yan. Ayun ang problema.
Made in China.
Oh, made in China. Okay, let's look forward. Congressman, what are we to expect from you as lawmaker?
Say again. Say again.
What do we expect from you as a lawmaker with all this situation today?
Well, as I've said a while ago, I'm contemplating to file a resolution or a bill that will encourage the president to set up a commission that will study the root causes of the problems of drugs, and so that we can have appropriate measures to undertake. And secondly, I'm part of the minority in the House of Congress, and we want to provide a balance of views on the current issues right now. That means we will provide criticism in order to improve the services of the Executive Department and other agencies of government, so that we can make sure that they are functioning, the Executive Department are functioning according to their mandate. And of course, as I have stated earlier, I have some questions, actually doubts in the anti-drug campaign, and I want to help actually solve the problem and not only criticize the government.
Okay, thank you. Dr. Cutler, how do you look at the situation? What should be done at the moment?
Well, I would suggest that we just continue moving forward, but pay attention to the rights of all people. But I think there are some ways that technology will be able to assist the government and the society to work better, more effectively, and more efficiently. I would suggest that we also make sure that we don't lose track of the successes that we have had and don't think that we are beaten, that the forces that we are against are unbeatable, whether that is in the drug trafficking area or the terrorism area. Daesh or ISIS has lost ground in the Middle East. I would suggest that that's one of the reasons why they are focusing or talking about making inroads into Southeast Asia and the Philippines, is to try to distract some of the pressure on their losses in the Middle East. And I think we're making actually very, very good progress, although we need to stay strong and keep going.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
As far as terrorism is concerned, we have basically three missions on terrorism. One is denying the opportunity for terrorists to do it, denying the tools of terrorism, and addressing the root causes of terrorism. Basic three factors. Denying the opportunity for target hardening, we try to, as much as possible, coordinate with the Philippine National Police and security agencies to develop some kind of strategy on securing vital facilities, not only in the urban areas, also in the rural areas. Denying the tools of terrorism, trying to use border control mechanisms to check and monitor precursors, not only to drugs, precursors to improvised explosive devices, and addressing the root causes of terrorism. Terrorism is not only a tactical, strategic problem, it's a social problem. We try to address the narratives of terrorist groups. As you said, one man's terrorist is another man's freedom fighter, so we try
Yes.
to address the freedom fighters and tell them that more strategies have succeeded socially, not using terrorism, like Mahatma Gandhi, Martin Luther King, despite these people using terrorism, which has nothing to, they
Yeah.
have not succeeded so far. Many terrorist organizations have not succeeded so far in terrorist ventures, but more people have succeeded socially in more peaceful means.
Yeah. You know, the only problem I have is when terrorists would be innovative, but they cannot innovate in the Philippines or use buses as a terrorist tool because of the traffic. Maybe they can use the trains because trains go out of Taft Avenue. But anyway, General, sir, how do you look at it? What needs to be done? Ano po ang pwedeng gawin? Anong doable?
I think the first step, which should be prioritized by the government, is to increase the momentum for proactive investigation system. We have to rebalance that. We have been accustomed to the reactive system wherein we need patrol cars, we need good firearms, we need so-and-so, we need advanced intercepts. But it appears that we are forgetting the basic tenet of undercover management system. Here, our friend here is from the FBI. If the FBI would like to pursue a long-term investigation, it will even reach about 2 years, 4 years. We are not doing that here in the Philippines. We have attempted several times, but because we lack the necessary resources and support, we cannot pursue it. So it is not only rebalancing proactive and reactive system of investigation. We have to put priority on the proactive investigation. You are already investigating crime or terrorism without even terrorism occurs. You have to predict. We have the so-called predictive policing. No? It is already practiced by the Philippine National Police in infancy stage. We have several database system adopted by the Philippine National Police, even our National Bureau of Investigation. But upon my examination, I have been observing this. I have been recommending this to all the chief of PNP na inabutan ko, and they have approved this in principle. We cannot even switch from our intelligence system to criminal intelligence system until now. What is the difference between criminal intelligence from the traditional intelligence in policing? It is actually gathering of evidence. Because a detective, an intelligence officer, there is a hybrid detective management system and security intelligence. Now it is being done globally. That is the perfect module. Detective and security intelligence. It is a fusion. It's being done by the Federal Bureau of Investigation long time ago. It was triggered by the 911. Wow. We have the lessons we have learned from the Super Piri bombing supposed to be driving us to adopt this system. But now, until now, we appreciate better gun, so on and so forth, equipment. We don't have enough informant. That's why we have to increase the number of confidential informant. We have to increase the number of confidential informant. Genuine confidential informant.
Hindi yung magpapakita ng ID pag nahuli ng pulis.
No. It must be a career. That's why we at the Philippine Institute for Peace, Violence, Terrorism Research and the Citizens Crime Watch, wherein yours truly is the Vice President for Special Concern, we are writing the proposed Criminal Informant Welfare Act or Magna Carta for criminal informant. Okay. The lifeblood of any criminal investigation is the informant. Without informant, you will only be engaged in crime analysis.
Okay.
And it would be very, very futile. It will be a long term. But combining analysis, criminal informant, detective, and security intelligence, wow, it's a perfect combination.
Okay. So what we have today is not detective but defective. Hindi naman.
Well, we have good detectives in crime,
Wow.
but they don't even know that they are detectives.
Really?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Because I was once the deputy for CIDG when I met all the officers. And who are the detectives here? Nobody is raising their hands.
Really?
They cannot institutionalize it. They cannot internalize it. When you consider yourself as detective, then you are engaged in proactive investigation.
Okay. Well said. Yung po ba mga pulis Maynila natin, may kakayahan ba? Dahilan sa, kami ni Pat Santos, nagsimula kami mag-cover ng police beat, typewriter pa yung gamit. Pag yung Republic of the Philippines, rock! Pag tinanong mo ang pangalan, pa isa-isa na yun. Eh ngayon may computer na. So, may kakayahan po ba?
Yes, sir. For the information of the body, the Philippine National Police now is IT qualified. We're using and employing information and communications technology in our investigation. In fact, we have several projects or e-police systems. We have the electronic warrants of arrest, wherein any police station in the country can verify if a particular subject has a warrant of arrest by the use of computer through internet. We have also an e-rogues gallery, wherein pictures of those who were previously arrested in police operations are placed in a data bank, and this can be accessed by any police station. Then, of course, the e-case tracking monitoring system, wherein cases filed previously, as mentioned by General Mendoza, can be monitored or tracked through the computer and not through manual sorting of files and records in drawers. So
Okay.
we're already IT qualified, and we're very proud of that, and we're improving on this
Yeah.
system.
Yun bang mukha nung taong suspect, let's say sa Sulu, yung ba pag kailangan dito, makukuha ng Manila Police yun? Ganun na ba ka-effective ang ating networking?
Are you saying if there's a suspect in Sulu, makukuha ng...
Kung narito sa Manila at nahuli nyo and you can check sa Sulu ba, ito ba itsura nito? Yung mga ganun.
Yes, sir.
Tulad
We
nung
can-
napapanood sa
Is it
pelikula.
working now?
Yes, it is. It is working now. In fact, a recent case, if you remember quite recently, mga 3 weeks ago, there's a road rage incident in Quiapo wherein an Army reservist shot a cyclist, resulting to the death of the cyclist. In span of 4 days, through the use of cell phones, computers, and social media, we were able to arrest the suspect who is in Masbate province on his way to Mindanao. And through that use of computer, through cell phones and email, he was positively identified, and we were able to bring him, and now he's jailed and now facing criminal charges.
Okay. Paano yan? Papaalam na po kami. It's indeed a pleasure having these bright guys with us today. You know, if their brains would be sold later, hindi pakikinabangan eh. Gastado ang mga utak nito. They've utilized their brains, cracked their brains too much. So it won't be up for sale, unlike some lawmakers that we know whose brains command a high price because they're slightly used. So I'd like to thank the gentleman who took time out to be with us. Sky?
Magandang umaga po ulit sa inyong lahat. And thank you so much to our guests. Today, we've learned a lot, and I hope that we can maximize all our knowledge and the technology as well too.
Yeah.
For the greater good of our country. So,
Pasasalamatan ko yung
magandang
mga
umaga
taga
po.
Defense Press Corps. Naglabas sila ng bagong matrix. Senator Gonzales, Judge Valderrama, Mayor Villapando, at iba pa. Mukha ni Subas Herrero, ni Eddie Garcia, at iba pa. So, thank you very much sa CNN, GMA, at UNTV, at mga periodista na naririto ngayong araw na ito. Next Monday, we will talk about gaano ba kagaling ang mga bumbero ng Pilipinas. Meron kang skyscrapers, kaya ba yan na marating? Baka magkaroon tayo ng towering infernos. God forbid. We will talk about it next week. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.